Jane and I got some enthusiastic folks there. Thank you. Jane and I very much appreciate you allowing us to visit with you tonight and to say a few words. Let me just begin by acknowledging what I think all of you know, and that is the passing away of Judge Scalia. And it appears that some of my Republican colleagues in the Senate have a very interesting view of the Constitution of the United States. And apparently they believe that the Constitution does not allow a Democratic president to bring forth a nominee to replace Justice Scalia. I strongly disagree with that. And I very much hope that President Obama will bring forth a strong nominee and that we can get that nominee confirmed as soon as possible. The Supreme Court of the United States has 9 members, not 8. We need that 9th member. A lot of important issues coming up. Second point that I want to make is we just had a rally a few hours ago. Over at the convention center. And we had some 18,000 people who were inside. And a few thousand people couldn't get in. And I say that not in a boastful way. I say that to tell every person in this room that there are millions of Americans from coast to coast who love this country, who are concerned about where we are, who want to play an active role in the political process. The Democratic Party nationally and in every state in this country will do well when we open the doors to those people, when we say to working people and young people, come on in, this is your party. And when all of us join together to make sure that once and for all we overturn this disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court decision. Politics in America, and by the way, this is not just a progressive perspective, a lot of conservatives, moderates feel the same way. Very few people think that what democracy is about is allowing billionaires to buy elections. That's not American democracy. And in that regard, I am very proud to tell you that I do not have a super PAC. I do not want a super PAC. Our campaign funds the very old-fashioned way. From working families and the middle class, we have received over $3.5 million individual campaign contributions, averaging $27 apiece. Let me also make a point that my fellow Vermonter, Governor Howard Dean, made a long time ago, but I believe is absolutely correct. I have been all over this country in this campaign, spoken to great people, in every region of America. And what I will tell you very straightforwardly is the Democratic Party will never be the party it must be if it is a party that ignores half of the states in this country. Democratic Party must be a party of 50 states, not 25 states. It must be a party of the South, where some of the poorest people in this country live. It must be a party in the Rocky Mountains. It must be a party all over this country, because if we are not, if we are not, we are leaving working families, low-income families, minority families under the dominance of right-wing Republicans. We must not allow that to continue. Now, when we began our campaign about 9 months ago, what the pundits were saying is that despite my beautiful hairdo and my GQ clothing, they thought that our campaign was a fringe candidacy. Well, 9 months have come and gone, and a few things have changed. When we began this campaign, we were 50 points down in Iowa. We were 30 points down in New Hampshire. We were way, way, way down in almost every state in the country. I believe that on Super Tuesday, people are going to be very, very surprised about election results here in Colorado. The reason for that, not just in Colorado, but other states on Super Tuesday, and I think the reason for that is we are tapping a nerve in the hearts and minds of our fellow Americans. And what that nerve is an understanding that we are living under a corrupt campaign finance system, that we are living under a rigged economy, and that we are living under a broken criminal justice system. Now, you can spin all you want, you can change your views all that you want, but at the end of the day, that is the reality of American society. The American people know that American democracy is not about Wall Street and super PACs controlling the political process. The American people know that there is something fundamentally wrong with our economy when, despite huge increases in technology and productivity, millions of Americans today are working longer hours for lower wages. They are scared to death about the future for their children. And while all of that is going on, 58% of all new income is going to the top 1%. The American people know that it is immoral, it is unsustainable, and it is not what America is about. When today the top 1/10 of 1%, not 1%, 1/10 of 1% now owns almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%. That it is wrong when the wealthiest 20 people in this country now own more wealth than the bottom half of America, 150 million Americans? That it is wrong when one family in this country, the Walton family of Walmart, owns more wealth than the bottom 40% of the American people. So let me propose a really radical idea to you. And that radical idea is maybe, just maybe, together we should create an economy that works for all Americans, not just the top 1%. The American people are asking other pretty basic questions. They wanted to know why in our great country there has been in the last 30 years a massive redistribution of wealth. Now, all of you know our Republican friends get very nervous when we talk about redistribution of wealth. But they don't get nervous when that redistribution means that it's coming from the pockets of the working families of this country and going to the top 1/10 of 1%. And what the American people are asking, how does it happen when trillions of dollars flow from the middle class to the top 1/10 of 1%, who have seen a doubling of the percentage they own over the last 30 years? How does it happen that we continue to have, by far, the highest rate of childhood poverty of any major country on earth? How does it happen that we continue to have 47 million people in America living in poverty? How does it happen that today we have 29 million people who still have, despite the gains of the ACA, no health insurance at all? How does it happen then when we have seen a proliferation of millionaires and billionaires in recent years? Half of the children in our public schools are on free or reduced lunch programs. How does it happen? How does it happen in the wealthiest country in the history of the world that we have more people in jail today than any other country on earth? Largely African American and Latino. How does it happen? How does it happen that in this great country, with so much wealth, that we are the only, not only major country, one of the few countries in the world that does not guarantee paid family and medical leave? How does it happen that the United Kingdom, France, Germany, Scandinavia, Holland, Canada, every other major country on earth can guarantee health care to all of their people, but we cannot do it? Yeah, I have been criticized for making that statement. So let me repeat it again. I don't want there to be any ambiguity. I'm a member of the committee that helped write the Affordable Care Act, and the Affordable Care Act has done a lot of very good things, period. But I do believe that health care is a right of all people. Not a privilege. And that we should move forward to a Medicare for all single-payer program. What our campaign is about is not just that we have the most progressive agenda. That's important, but that's really not the most important thing. The most important thing is that I tell you what I tell every audience that I speak to, and that is that no president, not Bernie Sanders, not Hillary Clinton, not anybody, no president will be able to address the enormous crises facing our country alone. And the reason for that, and we have to be honest, we can't go forward unless we tell the truth. And the truth is that the powers that be in America, Wall Street, corporate America, the corporate media, large campaign donors, have so much power that no president, no matter how well-intentioned, can address the major crises that we face. You can't do it. Everybody in this room knows that real change in America has never taken place from the top on down. Real change only occurs from the bottom on up. I am a great fan of the work done, domestic work done by President Lyndon Johnson. But the civil rights movement was not LBJ signing the Voting Rights Act. The civil rights movement was for decade after decade after decade. People in the trenches, people whose names we don't know, people who were beaten, people who were lynched. African Americans and their white allies who came together and said, you know what? In this great country, we will not accept the status quo. We will not accept racism. We will not accept segregation. And for decade after decade, people struggled. And then finally, we made real progress. Trade union movement, the same thing. Nobody gave workers the right to be able to collectively negotiate a contract. They went out on picket lines, they were beaten, they were sometimes killed, but they said working people are gonna have dignity at the workplace. We are gonna have a union. And every person in this room, I know, knows the history of the struggle for women's rights. Nobody gave women their rights. They fought for those rights. They died for those rights. They went on hunger strikes for those rights. And you just think, recently, just give you a couple of examples. If we were sitting in this room 10 years ago, somebody jumped up and said, you know, I think maybe in the year 2015, gay people will be able to get married in every state in this country. somebody had said that, the person next to them would have said, "What are you smoking?" And that's before you made marijuana legal here in Colorado. But what happened is the LGBT community and their straight allies said, you know what? In the United States of America, people should have the right to love whomever they wish to love. And today that revolution is so complete that when you talk to younger people, you talk to high school kids, as I do in Vermont, they don't even know what you're talking about. That's true. Their grandparents may, but the kids say, what is the big deal? I don't even know what you're talking about. That's a revolution. That's the revolution. So today we find ourselves in a rather unique moment in American history. Every person in this room understands that in the last 7 years, we have come a very long way in improving the economy of this country. It does astound me the degree to which my Republican colleagues suffer from a very serious illness called amnesia. Just can't remember. Just damn it, they try, just can't remember what this country looked like 7 years ago when 800,000 Americans were losing their jobs every single month, when we were running up a $1.4 trillion deficit, and when, oh, by the way, just in passing, the world's financial system was on the verge of collapse. That's what they left us. Well, thanks to President Obama and Vice President Biden, and the leadership, Democratic leadership, in the House and the Senate, we have come a long way. And we should be proud of that. But we cannot rest on our laurels. Too many people are hurting. Too many people have given up on the political process. And they look at Washington and they say, does anybody there understand my suffering? Does anybody there know that I am 83 years of age and I can't make it on $12,000 a year Social Security? Does anybody know that I'm a working mom and I cannot find affordable, quality childcare? Does anybody know that I just graduated from college and I'm $80,000 in debt? Does anybody know that I am a 19-year-old African-American kid who graduated high school, and yet we have a 51% unemployment and underemployment rate for those African-American kids? Does anybody hear that? So brothers and sisters, we have got a lot of work in front of us. Now here is the good news and I think the bad news. The good news is that anybody who takes an objective look at the Republican agenda, and as Rick mentioned to you, I am the ranking member, the leader of the Democrats on the Budget Committee. I have looked at their agenda. You would not believe their budget. Here's their budget. At a time of massive income and wealth inequality, they believe that it is a major priority to give $250 billion in tax breaks to the wealthiest 0.2% families in America. You know, I have gone all over this country. I have yet to hear from one person who said, Bernie, you got to give more tax breaks to billionaire families. That's really what we need to do. Republicans all over Congress, they're talking about cutting Social Security, cutting benefits for disabled veterans. What we believe is we should expand benefits for seniors. Republicans believe that we should make massive cuts in Medicare, Medicaid, environmental protection, and nutrition programs for hungry children. They believe, as people, you know, they go around this country, I'm sure they're here in Colorado, telling their constituents, their supporters, how terrible the federal government is. My God, we got to cut this, we got to cut that. We hate the federal government, except when it comes to the right of a woman to make a very personal decision. In that case, they just love the federal government telling every woman in America what she can do with her own body. So the truth is that if you look objectively at the Republican point of view, and then I forgot to mention an enormously important issue. I'm a member of the Environmental Committee and the Energy Committee. I have talked to scientists all over the world, and I'm not telling you what I'm sure every person in this room knows, that climate change is real, caused by human activity, and is already causing devastating problems. How can we have a major political party, a party that controls the U.S. Senate today and the U.S. House, rejecting science? You can't run a government when you reject science. Now, Donald Trump, one of the great, obviously, goes without saying, this is a man of greatness in every respect, not least of which is science. One of the great scientists of our time. And he has opined that climate change is a hoax. Now, that didn't surprise me. But what surprised me is when he said that it was a hoax perpetrated by the Chinese. Now, that shocked me, because I thought Mr. Trump would have thought it was the Mexicans or the Muslims, not the Chinese. So I think that when the American people get a chance to see how reactionary, how craven toward the billionaire class the Republican agenda is, I am confident that I or any Democratic candidate will beat them and beat them badly. But here is the one danger, the one fear that I have. And that is, as I think you all know, when the American people are demoralized, when the American people by the millions give up on the political process, as was the case a year ago, November, in 2014, when the Republicans won a landslide victory. And we must be honest and we must be straightforward in our analysis of that. The Republicans didn't win, Democrats lost, because millions of people did not come out to vote. The Republicans will always win when, as was the case in 2014, 63% of the American people didn't vote and 80% of young people didn't vote. What our job is, and what I have been trying to do throughout this campaign, is to make it clear to the American people that the only way we bring about change is when millions and millions of people, including many who have given up on the political process, young people who have never been involved in the political process, when we engage those people, when we open the doors of the Democratic Party to those people, and when those people and all of us say loudly and clearly that our government, our great government, must represent all of the people of our country, not just wealthy campaign contributors. Thank you all very much.
To present the award for service, please welcome Governor